This life, like an endless river, sometimes turbulent, sometimes quiet, but never stops. People, like lotus petals, grow from the mud, stretch out in the midst of difficulties. But how many people realize that it is in that impermanence that life becomes precious? Nothing in this world is eternal. Everything will pass, from joy, sadness, to success or failure. But it is in that transformation that we find true peace. Living like a lotus is not about avoiding challenges, but learning to live with them, but not letting them stain the soul. The lotus not only shines because of its beauty, but also because of its resilience, to rise from the dirtiest things. This world is the same, although full of sorrow and temptation. But if we keep our souls pure, like a lotus blooming in the mud, we can still shine in tranquility and serenity. It is not about living away from the world, but about living fully with the world, without letting it fade away our identity. Yet why are we still afraid of things that have not come, when life is not in external things, but in every breath, every moment we breathe in and out? Buddhism teaches us not to race against time, but to learn to live in the present, to find the stillness in our own souls. Only when we truly understand that death is just a part of life can we live fully, like the lotus still rising from the mud. But in the endless flow of life, do we have enough courage to face that change? The lotus, when rising from the mud, does not complain or resent. It just quietly, little by little, overcomes each layer of murky water to reach the place of bright light. Likewise, if we accept difficulties as an indispensable part, we will realize that every pain is a valuable lesson. Every challenge is an opportunity to grow. Impermanence is not an enemy, but a great teacher, reminding us to cherish every present moment. Because only the present truly belongs to us. The past, whether beautiful or painful, is just a memory. The future, whether hopeful or anxious, is just a dream. Only when we stop and listen to our own breath can we feel the gentle rhythm of life, understand that happiness is not in the destination, but in the journey we take. Learning to live like a lotus means letting go of the bonds of greed, anger, and ignorance, things like mud trying to hold us back. The lotus does not let mud obscure its pure white color, so why should we let the temptations of the world obscure the purity of our souls? Buddhism teaches that liberation is not about leaving life, but about living in life with a free heart, not bound by suffering and desires. And when we understand this, we will realize that life is not only a journey to find light, but also a journey to become light. Like the lotus flower, it is in the mud that its beauty becomes most radiant. We humans, when we overcome suffering, will also shine with compassion and wisdom. That is the true nature of life. However, in the journey of finding peace, we cannot help but face the dark clouds of the soul. These are worries, fears about the future, regrets about the past. But just as the sunlight cannot be covered by dark clouds forever, each time we realize the impermanence of all things, we are relieved of our own burden. This world is not a place to seek eternity, but a place to learn to let go and accept with compassion. If the lotus flower only knows how to shine on sunny days, then people only know peace when they learn to live with the fluctuations of life. Life is not a journey full of destinations that we have to rush to, but a flow that we need to learn to let ourselves go into. Every step, every breath is a part of existence, a part of this universe. And when we realize this, we will no longer feel restless, worried, or afraid of what is coming. Therefore, enlightenment is not a destination, but a journey. It is a journey back to ourselves, with a pure heart, with a free soul. And when we have found peace in our hearts, we will realize that happiness is not something out there for us to search for, but the serenity in every breath, every step in life. Happiness is an existence, a stillness that we can touch right in the present moment. The lotus does not need to grow to prove itself. It simply blooms because that is its nature. The same goes for humans. There is no need to race against time or against anyone. Be true to yourself. Live fully in every moment, and we will see that this life is beautiful enough, peaceful enough, like the lotus blooming in impermanence. In the silence of the soul, we can truly hear our own voice, our inner self. When we stop looking for happiness outside, when we no longer race with life, at that moment, peace naturally comes to us. That is when we understand that everything we need to live happily is always available in our own soul. We just need to open our hearts to receive it. Just like the lotus flower, when it blooms, it does not hesitate about the world around it. It only blooms in nature, in the destiny that the universe has arranged. This life is the same. If we let go of all worries, no longer try to change what cannot be changed, we will realize that peace only comes when we learn to accept everything as it is. It is not a compromise or a renunciation, but a harmony with the universe, a harmony with impermanence. Some people seek happiness in money, fame, or relationships in life. But do those things bring eternal peace? Buddhism teaches that those things are just passing raindrops, only coming and going. Only a pure soul is where lasting happiness is contained. It is the happiness of letting go, of living true to oneself without needing recognition or illusion. When we understand this, worries and concerns will no longer be enough to disturb us. We will realize that this life is not a battle to win, but a gentle melody, where every note has value, whether happy or sad. Happiness is not the ultimate goal, but a state of being, living in the stillness and serenity of the soul. Therefore, each day that passes, if we live with a heart that is no longer entangled, no longer desires, we will realize that life naturally becomes beautiful. Every moment, no matter how small or insignificant, has great value, and we will find ourselves like lotus flowers, freely spreading fragrance in our own presence, without needing to run after the world or seek anything outside ourselves. As we walk through life, it seems like everything passes by so quickly. People come, events happen, and then they pass like a passing wind. But in the midst of that constant flow, if we can stop for a second, take a deep breath and feel life, we will realize that each moment has its own beauty. It is our presence in each moment that is the most precious thing. The lotus flower does not need to wait for the sky to clear up. It only needs to live true to itself, and thus, no matter what the circumstances, it still shines brightly. Similarly, people do not need to wait for a bright future or an ideal situation to be happy. Happiness is not something that can be found out there, but rather the tranquility within each of us. Enlightenment does not come from seeking something outside of yourself, but from understanding who you are and living in accordance with your true nature. We do not need to fight with life or with ourselves. We only need to let go of the unnecessary, just live true to what is, and we have lived fully. It is this freedom of mind, this freedom from worries and fears, that Buddhism wants us to find. Like the lotus, it only needs to grow from the mud, reaching for the light without worrying about the dark clouds. It simply, in each moment, lives in accordance with its true nature. This world, with all its changes, is not a place for us to seek lasting peace. That peace can only come when we realize that our own mind is the place where happiness resides. When we no longer race against time, no longer fear the things we cannot control, we will realize that everything comes at the right time, everything has its reason. Death, change, all are part of life. And it is in that impermanence that we find the profound meaning of life. It is not living in denial, but living in acceptance. Accepting that everything is a part of transformation. It is change. It is impermanence that creates the beauty of this life. Every day that passes is a lesson. Every moment is an opportunity for us to live more fully, to love more, and to understand ourselves. The lotus flower does not need to do anything to become beautiful. It just needs to bloom naturally. Likewise, people do not need to seek anything outside themselves, but only need to live in sincerity, live in love, and let go of all that is unnecessary. Only when we can truly do this will we realize that we ourselves are the most precious gift that life has to offer.